Well, everybody has lost their minds on the Trump attempted assassination. It is crazy. Now, I have waited to weigh in on this, and actually, I didn't even want to really weigh in on this, but man, everybody has just like lost their minds over this. So I'm going to talk about it. Not really so much talk about that as talk about people's response to it. And hopefully I can give some people out there some advice. This is more like a public service announcement than it is anything else. And maybe I can provide a little bit of substance, a little bit of background. It's just, I've been purposely kind of staying away from it because, God, it just hurts my head to listen to these oxygen thieves who have no idea what they're talking about, and these quotey fingers experts get up here and talk when they have no idea what they're talking about, and it is, oh my goodness. It hurts my head. It really does hurt my head just to listen to these idiots. People making YouTube videos talking about conspiracy theory stuff, people dragging the Secret Service through the mud, people, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that I would like to say is Monday morning quarterbacking. We are, and I say we as in the general we, are Monday morning quarterbacking the crap out of this. And this is one of the detrimental things to do in any kind of investigation, is to Monday morning quarterback what happened, because you have the benefit of hindsight. You know what happened, okay? You know, because it's in the past. The people that were there on the day and before the day, they didn't know what was going to happen. They don't have the benefit. They can't see into the future. But it's a very common thing to look at what happened and then get in there and start Monday morning quarterbacking everything, right? It's a very human thing to do. But ask yourself, I'm sure that everyone watching this video has been Monday morning quarterbacked by somebody in their life. Maybe their boss, maybe whoever, right? Did you like it? Does everyone love the Monday morning quarterback? No, everybody freaking hates that guy. He's a douchebag. And now everybody in the country is turned into a Monday morning quarterback when they want to get up there and spout their ridiculous ideas when they have no clue what they're talking about. And the reason that we don't have a clue about what we're talking about is because the investigation isn't done. All the little pieces haven't been put into place yet. Report hasn't been done, like it's not done yet. We don't know all the details. That's going to take time. And so until all the details are hashed out and we have all the answers, we can't really make any judgments or decision calls right now. But this leads into the media and what the media is doing. And they're just stoking these fires. Why? Because they want people to watch the news. They love it when stuff like this happens because they get to spin their stories and have on so-called experts that talk about this and kind of imply things and put out snippets of information so more people will watch. And it's a big game. In case none of y'all understood this, it's a big game, okay? It's for ratings and to get people to watch. And that's why they're not going to release certain things. And they're only going to release little snippets of things. And they're going to release just enough information to lead people to think what they want to think. And every big news agency does this. I don't give a damn if you watch CNN, Fox News, CNN, whatever. It doesn't matter. They all do it. If you think you're watching the big news and you're getting the straight story and you're getting all the facts and you're getting objective journalism, I hate to break it to you, you are not. Okay? You are absolutely not. The news hasn't been objective in a long time. And some of you may have an idea, but I promise most of you don't have an idea as to just how unbiased, how biased the news can be and how much they can literally just make things up. As someone who has been involved in news stories and had coverage of that and that kind of thing, I can tell you, they have no problem just making shit up. Okay? This is why every law enforcement agency has a public information officer, a PIO. Because if they don't tell the news something, the news will literally just go out and make things up. That's why we have PIOs, okay? And that goes to national news, state and local news. Your local news, same thing. They will make shit up. So remember that when you're listening to this stuff, when you're seeing breaking news on Instagram or whatever you're looking at, right? Just remember it's more than likely nonsense, and to take it with a grain of salt. And that leads me to the next thing of that is there are so many mountains being made out of molehills right now. It is absolutely insane. I have never seen such nonsense in my life. Oh, look, it's just discovered that there's this one phone that was started somewhere by where the shooter lived and went somewhere in a proximity of some government building. Ooh! Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, that is the most nonsensical crap I have ever heard. It doesn't mean anything. It's totally ridiculous. But people are reporting this as like some type of news. Okay, so there's a guy who works at Subway who lives next to the shooter and drove next to a government building, because that's where he works. I mean, give me a break. It is so ridiculous. The text messages, little tiny snippet of a text message that was sent between officers that were out there. This is all over social media. Some kind of, oh my God, oh look. It's absolutely absurd. And it's little bitty molehills. Most of them aren't even molehills. They don't even mean anything. And they're being whipped up into this big thing because the media wants something to report on, so people will watch. Okay? And they also have an agenda. They want to whip up everybody into a frenzy for political reasons, for political motivation. This is just the flat truth. Okay? If you're blind to this, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but both parties do this all the time. They whip their bases up into a frenzy so the voters will turn out. Both of them do it. Don't sit there and think that your party is somehow better than the other one. No, they're not. They just have different opinions and different views. They both engage in the same political games. They both do it. Okay? And if you don't understand that, you really need to do your research and engage in some critical thinking. Okay? So that's the media stuff. Now, for the experts that are commenting on things and all these other different things, let me just give a general kind of general outline here. Okay? So, some general ideas. So first of all, if you're guarding someone doing principal protection and you have a large crowd of people around them, the first thing that you have to realize is that large crowds of people are extremely dangerous. During there was no truer line ever said in a movie than when Tommy Lee Jones was talking to Will Smith in Men in Black. And Tommy Lee Jones told Will Smith, "A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals." No truer movie line has ever been spoken than that. Large groups of people are dangerous as all hell. They're panicky, they're irrational, they're stupid, they're like a herd of cattle. They really are like a herd of cattle, okay? If you spook a big herd of cattle, it's going to stampede. Their cows will literally run off of the cliffs and die. That's how dumb they are. People are no smarter than that. They will do the most idiotic, nonsensical things, okay? And they have. So that's the first thing you need to realize. So look at the sniper incident, the counter sniper, the USSS counter sniper, and think about what you're going to do. First of all, think about the implications of taking a shot. Put yourself in that position for a second. Now let's transition over to communication, because this is very important. Most people think, oh, well, the cops were there, the Secret Service, everyone's talking, the communications. No, that's not how it works. That is not how it works. The Secret Service is going to have their own comms that are encrypted and all that other stuff. Cops aren't going to have that. Secret Service is not going to let cops be in on their frequency. Okay, so you're as an officer, if you're out there guiding traffic on the road or doing whatever, you're not going to be able to pick up your radio and just talk to a Secret Service agent. That's not how it works. Okay, now I will admit I have worked with the Secret Service, but I've never worked with the Secret Service as far as doing principal protection. So I'm going off of my previous history, and I have worked with the FBI, I've worked with the DEA, I've worked with Secret Service, I've worked with all the alphabet soup people, and done operations with them and all that. And they don't share comms with local guys or state guys. They just don't. Now, I'm not going to get into the reasons they don't do that on an open forum. I'm not going to do that. I will say that there are reasons they don't do that. It's not just because. In the same vein, I will tell you that the Fed boys do not like to share information with local and state guys. They just don't. Okay? All the Fed guys have classifications. They have secret clearances and all that. Local police do not. So sharing of information doesn't really happen. The only exceptions to that are rare cases such as task forces. Okay? I'm not going to get into what that is. And I'm also not going to get into why the Fed boys don't share information with local guys. There are reasons for it, but I'm not going to talk about it. But so with that being known and understood now, that there is a communication barrier, what does this mean? This means that there is going to be a communication lag. If you have a local cop who's out there, local SWAT guy, whatever, who's doing something and he needs to report, he's going to have to play the telephone game. Okay? Notify this person, that person will notify this person, and that person will notify the other person, right? It's not just pick up a radio and talk to the Secret Service dude who's 200 yards away. That ain't going to happen. More than likely, okay? I could be wrong about this, but as with my experience working with them, no, that's not how it works. Because they're not going to share their channel with local guys, okay? So think about that for a second. Also think about the chaos of the moment. Think about you have an officer that, let's say this happened, and this has been reported that it happened. I don't know if it did or not because the official report isn't in yet, but let's say that it did. You have an officer that goes to climb the building to check out some suspicious dude. He gets a rifle pointed at his face. He jumps or falls off the building. Now what? Well, chaos is now what? Is that officer injured? Was he able to radio out? Did someone else have to radio out? What's that radio call going to be? Oh, officer down or whatever. How long is it going to be before that officer is going to be able to communicate, hey, dude up on the roof? Was it instant? Or did that officer have the wind knocked out of him and it took him a few seconds to go, hey, a dude on the roof, whatever. We don't know, right? So it could be different things. I'm not saying it's one way or the other. I'm just saying this is reality. This is real life. Okay? If that officer did climb up to that roof and get a rifle pointed at his face and he dropped off or jumped off or fell off or whatever, that's 100% the right call, by the way. 100% the right call. If you're on a ladder and you engage someone who is not on a ladder, who is standing there or laying there and they got a rifle pointed at your head, you have just lost the fight, okay? You need to nope the fuck out of there because you are not winning that. So if that officer did that, hey, I got nothing against him. That's 100% the right call because you are not going to win that fight. You are completely at a disadvantage. So let's say, just for instance, let's say, okay, I'm going to throw a hypothetical out there for you. That happened. Guy on the roof points rifle at the officer. He falls down, jumps down. Gets on the radio. Hey, dude up here with a rifle, whatever. That's got to play the telephone game. Then it gets to the counter sniper. Now the counter sniper sees this guy. Remember something, you have to take information that you are given with a grain of salt. Okay? You can't just act on something that someone else said, because you as an officer or a federal agent are responsible for your own actions. So he might have seen the guy on the roof, who knows? But remember that you're responsible for your actions. Now we're going to go back to what I was talking about before. Crowds, panicky, dangerous animals. That's what crowds are. So if you're a sniper or a counter sniper and you have a crowd of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people beneath you, the last thing in the world you want to do is turn the gun on. Once you turn the gun on, everything is going to change. Now, obviously, if you have to, then that's your job and that's what you're going to do. But you have to understand that it is a last resort. Okay? Once you turn the gun on, man, you don't know what that crowd's going to do. You have no idea what can happen. So that is something you only do with the utmost care. You send a freaking rifle round over the heads of a crowd, it doesn't matter if it's suppressed or unsuppressed. Does not matter. Still going to be loud as hell. Everyone's going to know what's going on, and people are going to panic, and it only takes a couple of idiots, and the whole thing is going to go foobar. The whole thing. You're going to have people being trampled, killed left and right. You're going to have your principal is going to be overrun. I mean, it's going to be just chaos. So if that happens, so you only do that with the utmost caution. And you only do that if you know you have to, because that's a big step. And again, no one's talking about this. I haven't heard anybody, social media, anywhere talking about the realities of dealing with large crowds and sending rounds over large crowds and panicking and all that kind of stuff. Nobody talks about that because, well, A, they don't know because they're not experts. And B, they don't want to know. Right? They want to whip people up into a frenzy and for their own political reasons, or so they'll turn the news on and watch and they can get money, in the form of ratings. But just think about those things for a second. When you're listening to these news stories and you're listening to all this stuff and the information that is literally trickling in about this, because no one knows, because the report's not done yet, just keep all this kind of stuff in mind, right? One of the things that kind of bothered me a little bit was the reaction to the female Secret Service agents that were guarding Trump. And everyone was like, oh, he's women and it's DEI. Well, I don't know what DEI is, but, whatever. And then they were kind of just, disparaging the agents around Trump and all that kind of stuff. Look, the deal is this. This is the way I look at it. You can have all the training in the world that you want, but nothing is like the real thing. And I can guarantee you that none of those agents has ever handled the real thing like that, because it hasn't happened in their lifetime. So they've never had to do it for real, right? And doing it for real and doing it in training are very, very different things. Very different things. And so how you react to that is going to vary. And it's something that you're really not going to know until you're in that situation. Right? And as an agent, you're an agent. What do? Your principal protection. You do background, you watch crowd. I'm not going to get into what they do on open source, but I'm not gonna talk about principal protection and the concepts and principles and all that. But there's a difference between training and the real thing, is my point. Now, if you'll contrast with how the female agents acted to how the SWAT team members acted, like that one dude that rushed on the stadium with his rifle up and ready, that's a SWAT dude, and you can tell he wasn't panicked at all. Okay, he was in hunt mode, right? And the difference is he's been in incidents like that before. Not that specifically, you understand, but he's been in violent incidences. He's been in critical incidents. He's done that. As a SWAT officer, you do that regularly. It's part of your job. You go to the bad places and deal with the bad people. right? You deal with the worst of the worst, and you are in the most dangerous environments, and you do that constantly. So you're somewhat inoculated to this kind of stuff. And you'll notice he was calm as a cucumber. He didn't care. He was in hunt mode because as an operator, that's kind of what you do. He was simply looking for threats to shoot, and that's his job, right? But contrast that with the female agents, and they're like, oh, she couldn't get the gun in a hole. She couldn't. No, what you saw was panic. Okay, this is the first time that any of those agents had ever experienced anything like this. It wasn't disconcerting for the operators that were out there because they do high stress shit all the time. But for the agents, it is. It's kind of like the difference between a regular police officer and a SWAT officer. It's the difference there, right? The regular officer, they don't handle big things like that all the time. They don't handle super dangerous people all the time. Well, depending on what city. If you're an officer in LA or something like that, then yeah, you're going to handle some super dangerous people, and it's going to be all the time. But if you're an officer at, rural area and all that, you're not going to have that many, big critical incidents that you need to handle constantly. Whereas your SWAT dudes are. I mean, that's what they do. So that's why they are who they are. But you just see the panic there, right? And it's something that you're not going to know until you're there. So, I'm not going to say anything bad about them. I'm just not, I'm not. I'm going to give them a little grace and a little benefit of the doubt, and we can all sit back and say, well, I would have done this and I would have done that, but I can tell you right now from experience that a lot of people who talk a good game, when it comes down to the real deal, will piss themselves and go hide in a corner. I've seen that happen. So I'm not gonna come down on them. Now, to those of you who may be thinking, oh, you're just apologizing for the secret area. Well, no. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. Mistakes were made. Okay, big mistakes. That guy should have never been that close, should have never been able to get a shot off. That was a huge failing of Trump's protective detail. That was a massive failing, okay? And nothing is gonna wipe that away. So somebody somewhere failed. Maybe, probably a couple of people, several people failed in their job, in their duty. That was a huge failure, okay? What I am saying is, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Meaning that, yes, obviously there were failures, but we don't know exactly where those failures were because we don't have a full, complete report to look at. We don't have all the facts available to us. And until we have all the facts available to us, we can't make any hard decisions on things. And so that's really it. That's really what I just want everyone to keep in mind when they start looking at this stuff. A, remember the news is not on your side. They want you to watch, so they're going to trickle information in there. They're going to trickle false information and partial information, anything to get you to watch and stir up rhetoric and stir people up, because that's apparently what the news does now. It just stirs people up. But also remember that we don't know what happened. So let's reserve judgment until we know. Let's reserve judgment until we have the hard facts and all the data is in. And then we can stand back and look at it and go, okay, well, now we see where the failing happened. Let's see if we can try to fix that. Okay? But anyway, that's just a little information on this, little backstory. Guys, I appreciate you listening to me ramble and talk about this stuff. And again, appreciate all my subscribers and everybody that watches. This is Murphy, signing off.